Good afternoon. The Design Review Board 1 public meeting of January 24th, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-notified about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent hearings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 7 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Aliano.
Here.
Mr. Simonian.
Here.
Mr. Yu.
Here.
Mr. Zarabians.
Here.
Great. Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on January 17, 2008. Oral communications. Do we have any people in the audience wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda today?
I don't have any
cards? Okay, great. Seeing none, we can continue with the review calendar. Staff at this time doesn't have any staff announcements.
Okay. So we're going to just go ahead with the case?
Nothing on the consent calendar, so just continue with the agenda item.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to Design Review Board number 1 again. The first case is 1 PDR 2007-140B, 1234 Irving Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Presented before you is case number 1 PDR 2007-140-B, located at 1234 Irving Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct a 2-story house, which will be 1,852.5 square foot, of which 991.1 will be on the first floor and 861.4 square foot will be on the second floor. This case was first heard on January 10 of 2008 as a final review, and the decision was made to return for redesign with board comments. I will quickly go over the board's comments from the last hearing. First comment made by the board was to eliminate the second story balcony in the rear of the building. As you can see, posted behind you on the left side are the old plans, and on the right side are the new plans. And applicant has met this condition by eliminating the second story balcony in the back, which would be this one right here, which was imposing privacy impact on the neighbor to the south of the project. Second comment made by the board was to look into the options of eliminating the balconies and open terraces overall throughout the project. Applicant has reduced the number of open terraces and balconies by about half, according to the applicant. The third comment was to explore the options of relocating the entrance to the front of the building. Initially, the applicant was proposing to have the entrance to the side, to the south side of the building, and applicant has decided to move the entrance to the front of the building, which is seen on the site plan right here. So applicant has made that comment too. And also, another comment was to switch the family room, the kitchen, and the dining room to eliminate patio area in the back. Applicant has switched rooms around. As you can see on the first floor plan, you can see that the family room was in the front of the house. Now has been relocated to the back of the house. Staff also has some comments. Staff believes that applicant has artfully fulfilled the comments made by the board and conditions and the comments made by the board. By removing the second-story balcony in the rear and relocating the entrance in the front, applicant has attempted to eliminate the privacy impact that could be potentially imposed to the neighbors to the south of the project site. The design is consistent with the neighborhood, which is Spanish. Proposed project is in compliance with the zoning code, and staff recommends approval of the project. Applicant is in the audience, and if you do have any questions, I also will be available.
Do we have any questions from the staff?
So there was one comment, the second and the third. Could you repeat
The board comment or staff comment?
the board comments?
The board comment was to explore the options of relocating the entrance to the front of the
Okay,
building.
and how was that?
As you can see on the site plan, on the initially proposed site plan, the entrance is on the side of the building facing south, and applicant has relocated it from the side to the front, which is right here.
And what's happening in that little patio? Is there a patio?
This will be, I don't know if you want to call it a balcony, covered patio.
That will be right here?
Yes, it would be this one.
So that's where the old entry was,
Yes.
but the street is that way?
Street would be here.
Okay. And then what about number 3? I think that's a comment?
That was the comment, number 3.
What was number 2?
Number 2 was to look at the options of eliminating the balconies and the terraces throughout.
Okay.
The concern was we had some, all the balconies, actually, they were covered with covered balconies rather than open balconies. And the concern was to eliminate basically the overhang above it or treat it differently so we actually reduce the mass.
Right. So this right here, there was a balcony here.
Yes, that was the balcony. That was one of the
Right.
issues.
But there we had other balconies in front which we can see there.
Even the second-story balconies in the front, he has maintained them, but he has reduced them in size. I will let him go more in depth about those.
Question for staff.
Sure.
With the new system, was this one of the projects that the applicant got together with staff and strike and
When
so
it was
forth to go
initially
back and forth on?
submitted, no. But when it was returned for redesign, applicant did submit the plans. We did not have color elevation right away, but I did run it. I did take it by Stephanie. She did look at it, and she did feel that the applicant has met the condition. Comments.
Okay. Any other questions from the staff? No, Mr. Moynihan? No? Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. So I have a couple of cards on this project. So Mr. Edward Hagopian, please state your name and address for the
Good
record.
afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. My name is Edward Hagopian. I'm the architect of this project. My address is 220 South Kenwood Street, Suite 210, Glendale, 91205. That's my address. I believe I have responded to all these comments of the design review board. Other than that, I don't have much to say. If you have any questions, that will be it, because the only thing that I would like to mention again one more time, that I am very sensitive to the houses that are east-west. By many years of experience, even last week I was talking to somebody, and he mentioned this, that this house is east-west, and this is terrible. If I don't have a balcony on the west side, and it's just exposed balcony, the sun will affect the function of that room afternoons in the summertime. And I made it a little bit smaller, but please, if I eliminate that and made it just a regular eave that is on the top of the balcony, that's not going to help. Other than that, I have moved the entrance to the front. I have eliminated that balcony. And I have now a landscape that is done by a landscape architect, signed. And that's all I can say.
I have a question to ask you. When we made the comment as far as relocating the entrance that was proposed last time,
Yeah.
did you do any other schemes? Did you really study that thing in
Of
a
course,
different ways?
anytime-
Or
Yeah, of course. Anytime you ask or you recommend something, I simply don't put a door in the front. I work on that to see how can I keep the character of the house and not to exceed the square footage of the code. That's another issue. And how can I have an entrance that is not very narrow? If I had that door facing the street, that entrance could have been very narrow. I entered from this, I mean, it's front, but from side direction, so it's a little bit more convenient.
Because I remember that our concern was also throughout these changes that we were talking about, and to actually improve the entire structure in a sense. Like right now, you have responded to that question by eliminating the entrance from the side, but however, you have that niche there still. Still, you have that
Yes, I have a niche.
covered patio in that area there.
Yeah, it's a covered patio, but the main thing is that the living room, family room is moved to the rear of the house. And
True.
I have eliminated almost most part of that patio that I had in that section.
It's true. That was another issue. That I understand. But as far as the entrance, that was removed from there and
And
replaced.
the concern of the neighbors was not people to enter from that side. Other than that,
Okay. Do you have any questions from the applicant? Thank you very much. We'll call you for rebuttal. Okay, so second caller that I have is Sarah Conrad. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sarah Conrad, 1232 Irving. We're the neighbors to the southwest. And we think the building looks a lot better from the street. We think the building looks more balanced from our perspective, and we appreciate having the balcony eliminated. As far as the sun beating down, I mean, they do make window shades. We have, on our rear elevation, we have 5 windows, and we've lived there 28 years, and we actually don't have any shades or anything on the windows, and it was just this past summer where we thought, well, you know, we really ought to buy a shade for one of these windows. So I think there's ways to work around that without having to add the balcony back onto the building. I like the landscape plan. I see that there's a landscape architect who did it this time, and it really shows the improvement. I just had a question about the wooden fence, what the height would be. I couldn't see if it was specified, if it was going to be, 5 feet or 6 feet. And
The fence, you were talking about the fence?
wooden fence that they're
Around.
building around the perimeter.
Okay.
And of course, we would prefer the 6 foot, the highest that they can build. And we also did have a consulting arborist who we hired just to make sure that our trees and shrubs would be protected. And at the time that we had the arborist, we didn't know if the plan was going to have a wall built around or a fence. And I'm glad to see it's a fence because, you don't have the continuous footings. You just have, like every 8 feet. So that's going to really minimize any impact on the trees and things. I did hand in just a copy of the consulting arborist report. But as long as it's going to be a fence without continuous footings, I think it should be okay. And I can just give a copy to Mr. Hagobian, too, just so he knows. We're not totally crazy about the 2 patios facing us. I realize there needs to be something there. I don't know that it needs to be 2 patios, but I'll kind of leave that up to you, what you think. They are recessed, I guess they're sliding glass doors. They are more recessed into the house rather than flush, so that's a good thing. But I'm just interested in what you have to say about the patios on the
Okay.
side.
But generally speaking, you're satisfied with the changes based on the comments that you
Definitely.
had last time, concerns that you had?
Definitely.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hagopian, do you wish to rebuttal, or?
yeah, simply, I will put the details in the plans to show the not continuous foundation for the fence wall, so that our neighbors will be happy, and the owner wants to cooperate during the construction, not to damage the landscaping, and we'll do everything to satisfy them. We did from the very first day, and I'm glad that they like the project.
And you're actually proposing to do a new fence, wood fence, all around, or it's,
It's, I think I have mentioned in my new plans that it's a wood fence, yes.
yeah, new, the entire?
New
the
wood
entire
fence,
replacement.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, thank you. Do you have any questions from?
No, I don't.
I have one question.
You had one question?
Yeah,
Mr. Agobian, can you please approach?
the windows, I don't see, what are the windows?
The windows.
What's the material, what is the?
Although that you like the flat windows.
Flat windows, then, right?
You know what, last time we were told to change it and we forgot to do that. It'll be clad.
We write it in there, yeah. Wood clad, I mean
Wood
metal.
clad,
over
yes.
wood.
Somehow we missed it.
So the wood windows with metal cladding on the outside. Okay. And I had another question. I think in terms of the fenestration, the windows that are shown as double hung, the narrow ones, would you consider making those casement windows rather than double hung? Is there a reason for the double hung?
No, I cannot think of any specific reasons.
Okay. I think that would be one of my comments. If we could sort of unify the windows in terms of the style, the operation of the window, because the double hung,
You want this to be swinging?
well, it can even be
Yeah.
fixed. It doesn't have to be swinging. I just think that it's not consistent when you do double hungs in this style. You really rarely see
Yeah,
double
casement window. In other words, you have a
Okay.
crank and, the style will be the same, except the operation will be different.
I'm okay
Right.
with it.
It's still the same
Functionally
size.
easy.
You're just getting rid of that horizontal line, which is, I think it will make these openings a little more in character with the style.
Okay.
You have, I think, a couple here, and you have one down. There's not very many. The other thing is, if possible, it would be nice to break this up maybe in three, if you could make these thicker, so that, again, I'm thinking in terms of character.
3 pieces?
A thicker mullions maybe that read more like, not necessarily columns, but it gives you
Okay,
sort of
fine.
tripartite
No problem.
composition, which is more, this looks a little too modern for this house.
Staff had a question
So those are
for
the only,
Mr. Hagopian, since Ms. Conrad had mentioned, she had a question about the height of the fence. If Mr. Hagopian could clarify the height of the fence.
Whatever they like.
6 feet.
good answer.
Well, the maximum possible, that's, I believe it's 6 feet, so
without-
that's what it's going to be.
Doesn't
All right. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. I don't have any other card, so we close the public session. So let's go and discussing among us. Who wants to go first?
I think it would be wise for Mr. Aliano to go to first, because we've opined on it, we made some comments, and so maybe you could come in with some fresh ideas and thoughts, which you already
No
have.
problem. Yeah,
The staff did such a great job summarizing everything that's
Yeah.
occurred.
I think the applicant did a good job responding to the comments. And I think if he's willing to do these minor adjustments to the windows, I don't have to see it again. I think we can just make a comment and he can move forward. I like the fact that, the building kind of steps on the street side, so it goes towards the back. And in some ways, I really like the entry of the original, the style of the entry, but the location, I think this is a much better scheme. So we're losing that nice character of the opening, the entry, but there are a lot of nice things on this scheme as well that kind of compensate for that. And there's really one main dilemma that I have, which I don't think can really be fixed unless you change things quite a bit, and it's not a make it or break it kind of thing. I will still support the project, and I know why it is. I mean, the chimney, sort of these long chimney on a one-story structure, it looks kind of strange. There's one near my neighborhood it's similar to that, where they look like these flagpoles that are standing in the middle. But I know why that is. You have to be a certain height from the second, the other roof and the fenestration and so on. if there's anything that can be done to minimize that, but I doubt it, because that's a code issue, so I'm okay with the project. I think you've done a good job, commenting, and Mr. Hagopian's done a good job responding.
Okay, that's it. And Mr. Yu?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. First of all, I'd want to commend Mr. Hagopian for taking into account the comments that we had made in the previous meeting, and I think you have addressed them, and I'm ready to support the project as is.
Okay. Mr. Simoni?
I concur with my colleagues. I think some of the comments that were made today by Mr. Aliano were right on, and with that integration into this design, it'll be a better scheme and a better fit. Our first go-around was, of course, more the bigger issues, and once we got those ironed out, we were able to assess some of the finer issues today. So I could support this project.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Mr. Hagopian has responded to the comments. I'm just a little bit afraid whenever we are making specific comments, and that's my concern, because it seems, it comes out normally as if we are prescribing something. We want something to be done in a certain way. But those comments that we made, we had certain concerns behind them. There was a legitimate concerns that we did those comments. And so that means to respond to those comments, there will be some studies made and so on and so forth. So there are many ways of coming up with answering those comments that we had. My concern is the entry. I think that entry is kind of missing there. I mean, I understand the relocation of the entry from the side to the front, but let's say I don't want to even say that in the future sometime if this house is sold to someone, it's very easily can someone come and put a door there and make the entry from the side, because you have that ability. The plan works for both sides as well. I don't want to accuse anyone is going to be doing that, so that's just side of it. But nevertheless, when we move that entry from side to front, we wanted to have more fenestration in front. We want to have more of a living room kind of window and larger opportunity for light and so on and so forth. But right now I see that the entry door is not visible. It comes from the side. Nevertheless, you're entering from there. It's kind of the entry is kind of lost there, and that's my main concern. I think this could have been treated different a little bit, and I see this area is here. That when you're entering this area here, we're not taking advantage of this space here, and it just kind of, to me, this is like a redundant, patio. We got patio. We have like 6 patios different in places. I appreciate what happened here, because this is the correct way of doing it, where we have the family towards the recreation room, and that was one of our comments, which is fine. So you got the kitchen, plan-wise, we have the kitchen, dining, family, and the living working fine. But the problem is that once we did this thing, suddenly we have a bathroom which is right in between 2 patios. And so I feel that this area here is kind of weak, and then the function shows in the final product. You have all these niches, but in reality, you have this wall that is really just a plain wall. So here is the entry, the nice entry feature that he had with this precast element, which was very classic and very nice. That's kind of lost. I was hoping that when we are bringing the front entry from the front, we could have incorporated some of these, some of that over here. And this I think going in and then entering from the left-hand side is just, it was not it's not justified. I mean, we can go ahead and approve the project. I'm not saying that this is a make it or break it, but I think there's some room for improvement in this area here, and it's kind of shame just to let it go. And as far as the fireplace is concerned, I concur with Mr. Aliano that this thing is just, sometimes when you have the fireplace that serves only the first story, I mean, one way of doing that is that if that would have be connected to the second floor somehow, with some more space or some sort of a closet or something, then we didn't have to do that to have this thing sticking up. So those are the, discussion points that I'm concerned about as far as the design is concerned. I think he has responded in their own way. I'm very happy about the landscaping. I think this is a good landscape plan. But I think the front is just kind of weak to me. And if there is no way of improving it, that's different. But we're not dealing with a addition per se. This is basically a brand-new building. So when it's brand-new building, I mean, there's so much that you can do as far as the entry is concerned. And still, I understand Mr. Akopian, when he's talking about the, west and east, I understand it's a very good point. But the thing is that this is now cantilevering out, or rather, this is overhanged about 6 feet or whatever we have there. Normally, we could have had the same amount of shadow here if it was not cantilevered 6 feet, or if this was over here, for instance, it would cast the same amount of shadow over here. So I mean, some sort of a compromise could have been reached in this area here. And I'm not too sure about this, but this area here, there was a privacy issue, which he's eliminated the balcony. So I'm okay with the back side of it. My main concern will be the front of it, which was lost in this whole exercise. And I don't want, even if we approve it, I don't want this thing to be viewed as we have prescribed this entry, because I don't want to put my name on this entry. See what I mean?
Well, I mean, is it possible to, you stretched, Mr. Agovian, if you stretched this out more, and you put the entry right there in between the two forms? In other words, you could actually even make your bathroom bigger. I don't know if you can add more square footage. Probably have the FAR
I think what he was saying is that if he brings the door, the way I heard him saying, if the door is over here, it's kind of narrow, and he gets a narrow window and narrow kind of element over here, which, you know what I mean? So it doesn't worry. His concern from the beginning was this, that this is narrow.
That's true.
Which we said it is narrow. We understand that. But I'm just questioning, why do we actually need this? Why this doesn't continue like this? So you can see actually the door itself. Or why can't this elongate over here and then put a nice door over here? Forget about this patio over here.
But this could be the entry right here, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could be the entry right there. Now, he doesn't want to come right in front of this long corridor, which I understand.
Right.
And then he doesn't want to also, with the same token, open the door and then face the wall there. So
There is quite a bit, though. But if the doors were here, you're entering a vestibule, right?
Square footage. Square footage.
yeah, Mr. Akopian, we'll ask you to.
Well, Mr. Ariana asked me questions.
You don't have enough FAR for that.
We have 1 square foot left.
One,
Yeah.
the thickness of the door. Okay. Well, again, it's one of those things. It would be nice to have it in facing, but. I wonder if there's something that you can do on this wall, maybe. Would be a niche or something on the wall that kind of.
Yeah, I can put the same thing that we had on that facade into this.
Some tile work on this wall that sort of marks in plan, right?
If he puts something like this there in the entry, then the door has to actually face us.
Right.
It really defeats the
Not on the
purpose
door,
of putting
not
the
on the
door.
door.
Necessarily.
I don't know about this wall here. If you create like a niche, just as a.
What's appealing about that elevation is the fact that there is the border around
the
the
door is great.
entrance, and then this very nice, eloquent, classical.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? If this was the front of the building,
Why don't you make this solid? Why don't not make this solid and do carve that door here? And even if the door is not there, the thing is, you're saying that once you add square footage, I mean, you can't add square footage. So.
well, Ms. Aliano, in reality, what I'm trying to say is this. Why do we have to have the powder room right in front of the entry? I mean, this powder room could have been actually over here, where you can close it over here. This area here could have been actually left alone.
May I say?
We will ask you, Mr. Akopian. So what I'm saying is, if this was not here and like an island, if this was over here, then we have an opportunity of having a rhythm like this, where this is actually going to be a nice entry courtyard or something. So what I'm saying is like you could have had a nice entry courtyard when you're coming in.
Right.
So we're not going to obviously design it for them, but
he's got a point that, well, got this balcony that ends right
Yeah.
up above here, some in here.
Somewhere there.
Yeah, so he's trying to reconcile all these things.
Okay, it's just
No,
my
very good point.
personal
I agree with your
feeling.
point.
I mean, if you guys are okay with it, that's fine.
Well, at this point, unless we haven't reworked it.
Okay,
I don't know how you feel about that, but
All right, then.
I was not.
that's fine. Do you have any other comment, or do you think?
But I think if we are going to accept this entry, I think it'll be nice for that back wall to have something, so that when you have some kind of axis that leads you to that point, even though it's not the entry, it's quite typical of these types of this style, where you have things on walls that create focal points. And
Typically, when we have a corner, when we have a 90-degree setback there, typically the entryway is kind of a short turret or something that you're entering on an angle, which we don't have it here. I mean, we see the other, Spanish-type buildings same way. Over here, what compromise could have been made is that he could have used the same precast entry and everything, and as you're saying, perhaps to come in, not necessarily putting the door in front of it, but on the side. At least it will announce an entry there for it, rather than just having these niches that people will just come in and then just go in.
Right. Well, the thing about this is that you have sort of a point that's sitting on this roof, which actually visually, there's no support. There's nothing visually that sort of ties this to the base of the building. And I wonder, if through the turret here, whether this could be brought in where maybe it aligns, so this patio actually may have 3 arches or maybe something else. Then you can elongate this piece a little bit and still make it an exterior patio. But now it's more, you have more something like that. This could even have some other shape. Maybe it could be diagonal or something. Sort of typical of this style, where you have turrets in these kind of buildings. So you could do something here that more, you come in and you enter, which is actually, you drive anywhere, all parts of even LA, you have these buildings where there are turrets, little turrets, but the entrance sometimes are not seen. But you do see the little turret.
A defined aspect of it.
And maybe that could happen here, which is easy to do, I think, without adding square footage. The only thing that would have to occur is that this balcony here would have to be brought in, which eliminates that door. That's a better.
Well, that's one way of looking at it to create that turret. But let's say if it's a turretless, at least if he has a strong element over here, which is that's like, generally speaking, normally this is like generally a fixed window, a picture window, a nice treated window. So it goes away from all this, the same type of roofs and everything. You know what I mean? So if this was that kind of treatment in front of the living room, where you have that, and then we could have left alone on this side, let this go by, but this could have been a small loggia or something. I mean, if this distance equals to that distance, we can see that there will be just a colonnade over here. So when you're entering, then you can enter from the side, in other words, into the colonnade, rather than having it in front of you. So those are the combinations that I'm saying that we could have there, as an entry. So I don't know if there is any way that we can actually put some sort of a condition that he would rethink that area there just for the entry alone. Well, I mean, perhaps the staff can review it, and maybe we can, because I believe that based on the new procedures, staff has a sort of I believe, say so, yes.
Just so that we understand the intent, because just to remind you, our notes indicate that last time the concern was really focused on the privacy of the neighbor. And the notes that we have suggest that the board suggested that the entry actually didn't even have to be in front, but could move more towards the front of the house. Just to let you know our process a little bit, because the priority was to get this back in front of the board quickly, the date certain, I think, was continued to a date certain. Staff's priority was to review that very specific comments and the intent of the comments were satisfied. So we did not do more thorough review or question some of the elements, such as the chimney, the window pattern, etc. We can do that in the future if the board so directs us or would like to see that. So that's just for your information. As we continue to work with the applicant on the condition, and because from what we're hearing, it seems as though there's a certain level of satisfaction with the solution, but a concern about the entry. And so what we're hearing is that it would be preferable if the entry was somehow more prominent and in keeping with the style that is prevalent in the city. So perhaps a sculptural or tile niche, something to end the axis, would be also okay if the applicant didn't want to rearrange the plan again. So just so that we understand how you're conditioning what your intent is, we'd like to have that clarity as we move forward.
Right. If we would like you to have a look at this and not having to come back here, that's a possibility. Okay.
And we'd be very happy to do that, but we want to also, if what I described is meeting the intent, then we could either craft the condition or you can restate it. We just want to make sure that we're capturing the intent of the board, especially if it comes back to staff for approval.
Okay.
Well,
I think you have a very good concern, and if that could be worked out between staff and Sargovian, that way he doesn't have to come back and he can still keep moving forward.
no, I agree. That's what I was getting at, is that this will be our last, let's say, comment that we're making. If I'm concerned, I can't just hide my concern. I am very much concerned about the entry. And the thing is, and so that could go as a condition that he will work with the staff and just, and they'll take a look at it.
Maybe the direction, in terms of clarity, should be that we are in agreement with the project, but that there's this entry concern that needs to be defined.
Mhm.
The entry needs to be defined in such a way that it's not just in the front, but it's more prominent. Right?
Yeah,
That you
more
can see it.
more prominent than is depicted now.
Right. Perhaps see the front door, perhaps create an opening that's more indicative of an entry rather than just, because you don't know that there's an entry there, right? It's very hard to tell. I'm okay with that. I think we can do that.
Okay. As a general procedure, I'm just raising a little bit of my concern as it relates to this project. I think generally speaking, when we are not making any direct comments or conditions, it's viewed as it's very general. But when you're making specific comments, it goes back and it doesn't mean that when everyone meets those conditions, the project is approved. I think the thing is that if you have four different concerns, the combination of to answer those four concerns will have a profound effect on the design of it. You can't just take one point and then just come up with it. The point is that we want to see what that effect does. And when I'm looking at the project, for instance, I have my own take on the project as far as the style is concerned, and I see certain things could have been worked out differently. And maybe those comments that we made, and we try to be specific, yet to give the applicant the opportunity to rework it, redesign it, and so on and so forth. Now here we are, the project is before us, but not necessarily it serves the intent that we had before.
I hear
See what I
you.
mean? So that's I'm just want to clarify. Otherwise, and it's not fair to the staff that all the time we send back the projects to the staff to rework it or make a decision on that.
Yeah.
So that's
I
just
think
my own.
the underlying thing here should be that what I'm hearing is that the entry needs to look like an entry. It's not the fact it's in the front of the house, but it needs to look like an entry. And if we give that kind of message, then I think they know which way to go. And one-on-one sort of situation could actually be quite good, because they'll be able to communicate and
Okay.
exchange ideas. So.
You have something to say?
On a more theoretical level, and one of the first questions I asked staff was if the urban design group had had a chance to review this project, and that was an important question for me, because going forward as we do date certain hearings, and we set a specific date for someone to come back, an applicant to come back, and most of the times an applicant will say, oh, I could do it in 2 weeks. We need to consult with the urban design group as well to give them an opportunity to go through a lot of these issues. I absolutely concur in that when we prescribe these conditions, there's many ways that one could solve them. And just by checking off a list isn't the idea. The idea is to cohesively redesign, and I think that's what the urban design group is all about. And so with this new system and with these projects coming in, I think this will be a good opportunity for them to work with the applicant to address some of the newer comments, some of the older comments, and to see where we might end up with this. And I think the question then becomes is, does the urban design group just simply look at it and move forward, or does it come back here? And that's something that I think you guys were talking about or opining on. But in general, that was my concern to begin with, whether your group had had a chance to look at it.
Typically, we will be, as we move forward, we will be wanting to clarify the intent of your comments. And we also understand that there are a variety of ways, any number of ways a design can meet that intent. Some are always better and some are not as good. So we will be able to evaluate that. And for something like this, where it's a very specific area of concern, now that you've clarified it for us, we have a very clear idea, and we would be comfortable if you wanted to condition it and not have it come back. Furthermore, if in the future, when it's not returned for redesign but continued, maybe we should be mindful to, since we understand that you'd like to have staff review it a little bit more thoughtfully, perhaps 2 weeks' time is not sufficient. So as we move forward, we will evaluate that on a case-by-case basis and advise you accordingly.
Based on your schedule and so forth.
Based on our understanding of the changes and all the unique aspects of the project.
Okay, with that said, let's move forward. Do we have a motion on the table?
Will you make it?
Go ahead.
I like to move to approve the project with the conditions that were described earlier, and also with the understanding that the entry concern is addressed, and that's to be worked out with the applicant and the urban design group.
And you also had a comment about the windows.
That's what I meant by comments, or the ones that I made earlier, yes.
Okay. And do we have a second?
And I think it's very important, I know that everybody heard it, that the reasoning behind the entry, revisiting of the re-entry is to give the applicant another opportunity without having to come back to us to an entry that's extremely prominent and that really addresses the idea of an entry to a house.
Okay.
Kind of in the same quality and spirit as the original design with all this beautiful detailing
Okay.
possible. So I think, is that clear enough? Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Aliano to approve with conditions, and second by Mr. Yu. This will be a roll call. Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Chairman Zorabian?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Go to the next item in agenda. Case number 1, PDR 2007-121A. It's continued from last time. 1410 Andenes Drive.
It's continued.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members. The next case item before you is case number 1-PDR-2007-121-A, located at 1410 Andenes Drive. This case was continued on January 10th. The board had a few comments. The applicant was able to provide the plans as of this afternoon. Staff has not formally gone over it. Get to your comment, Mr. Simonian. It has not gone through our urban design team to look on the design concepts. We did look over zoning issues. It does not appear that the square footage has been adjusted drastically. The applicant can definitely verify that, but I can definitely go over the comments and conditions that the board had 2 weeks ago. Condition number 1, that the applicant was to provide 8th scale plans for better clarification and clear depiction. Comment number 2, provide 50% calculations to reassure that the scope of work will not trigger new construction regulations. Condition number 3, provide a site plan overlay of both proposed first and second story. Condition number 4 was to restudy the fascia board size. Condition number 5 was to restudy the south elevation. Number 6 was the color chart appears to be too dark. Applicant has provided a new color scheme. And condition number 7 was to restudy the placement of the shutters. These are the previous plans that the board saw on the 10th, and to your right, excuse me, is the new submitted plans. Briefly looking over this, the applicant has removed the shutters and has introduced a new window on this elevation. Excuse me, the applicant has also indicated some calculations that are stating that he is not demolishing more than 50%. I have not got a chance to verify this with building and safety, but it will happen. That basically concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions from the staff? Any questions, Mr. Mayor?
The applicant has provided some responses in letter format for the board members, and that's
Insofar as the south elevation, what have they done as far as changes?
it was regards that this elevation lacked
Detail.
detail. And as I'm seeing here, the only thing that we did was the removal of the shutters along with an introduction of this one.
Did we ask for shutters to be removed?
No, the idea was to make them more copacetic with the overall
Correct.
design,
We
not
never said
remove
to
them.
remove them.
In fact, it looked much better with them on as to what it is today. But again, it hasn't gone through the urban design group. It's just come back quickly.
Correct, it was within the 2-week span.
And
Can that be fixed? I mean, why should we look at it if they haven't had an opportunity to look at it? Just because we wanted to have it fast?
No, I think whenever we are sending cases for continuation is because of not providing information. In other words, we are lack of information. The way it was presented to us, our understanding was, see, when you see the site plan, it just shows the roof. We really didn't understand what the plans were, and in other words, adjacencies. The plans were not shown before. So we wanted to have an 8-inch plan superimposed on the side, so we can see actually the proximity to the trees, existing trees, which are important, and how they're laying out there. We still haven't had that planned on here.
No.
We have the 8-inch plans here, but they're just not on the side themselves. And this is only trying to answer one of our concerns, that are we going over 50% removal? Because if that happens, then our setbacks are different than what it is before. So we clearly didn't have enough information last time. That's why we continued it.
Okay.
well, I have a general statement to make, but I don't think it's a question for staff. So I have no questions for staff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, so I have only one card here. Rafael. Yes, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Rafael Quezada, 787 West Woodbury Road, Altadena.
Are you the designer? Or
Yes,
was-
designer of the project.
All right.
With respect to the overlays and the 1/8 inch scale, the site plan, as I understood it, you needed to see how they relate to the setbacks and so forth. So in that, can I approach the chart?
Yes, please. The pointer is there if you need it.
These areas here are now more visibly shown, which this is the area that is remodeled on the first floor, this being the first floor plan. So there's a small area here, an addition to the family room, addition to this bedroom. The next shows the same color here with an overlay of this violet color, which is the second floor. These match here in the same color scheme, more or less, where we have the red showing the addition, main part of the addition. There is a small porch addition, but it's really not an addition. It's just a remodeled area. But the outline matches in this site plan so that you can see what the setback is to the trees. And I want to clarify, in the 11 by 17, as I was trying to explain to you, the wording of the requirement on the printout that the city provides is to reduce the entire plan and get it on 11 by 17. It didn't wind up perfectly 1/8 or 3/16. It had to be scrunched to make it happen. So what you saw were inaccurate, and I didn't catch that, and I apologize, but what you saw was not accurate in terms of the setback or the driveway. This is a 9'2" driveway. It meets the requirement. This is a 5' plus setback, which meets the requirement. So just in terms of what might be triggered in terms of new regulations, those are not issues. In terms of the modification of the building and the percentage that I arrived, what I did was I calculated the total lineal footage of all partitions, exterior and interior, and gave them all a nominal 9-foot height. Then I took the walls that were being removed, interior and exterior, with the same nominal 9-foot height. Then calculated percentages, and came up with 13% in terms of partitions. Then I took the roof in terms of its overall plan and how much of it was going to be modified, which the two added together and then divided as an average came to 29.5%.
Okay, I have a comment to make there, because this is not the way that is calculated in the city of Glendale. This is not the way they calculate.
Mm-hmm.
The calculation, first of all, it does not include the interior walls. It's only the exterior walls.
In that case, it's even less.
It's fine. It's
Okay.
fine. What we care is that when we are going ahead and approving these plans, when it goes through the processes, if no one would, there are a couple of things can happen. One, first of all, you can come back and say, well, this is approved and this is the way I have it. You know what I mean? We want to eliminate that. Maybe not you, but some other person or whoever.
Sure.
That was not in the meeting. Second is that if it goes through and it goes to construction, there's not a approved, prescribed definition of what is 50% or not. Do you see what I mean? And it's bad for you, it's bad for the city, and it just creates misunderstandings later on. Now, I understand we can monitor that. Everyone, at least when we are putting the information there, should be actually to what the prescribed method is. You see what I mean? So right now, that the dimensions, whatever you put there, it's not going to be counted. What you need to do is the exterior area of the exterior walls plus you're going to plus the area of the roof itself together, because they both count. You could be removing the entire roof, let's say, most of the roof, but you're not removing the exterior walls, what I'm saying. So there's a balance there.
Right.
So there's a particular method there to calculate it, which is not what is already indicated there. You see what I mean?
But if you add the roof area And you're saying only the exterior walls? not-
Exterior walls, nothing, it has nothing to do with the interior. Interior walls comes into play for your sprinkler system, but because when you go through building and safety,
Right.
they're going to look at that in addition to what you're doing.
Right.
And then they're going to say you're going,
Well, then I erred in on the side of caution in that I did include for the demolition portions of the interior, and so this probably is more like 25% overall.
okay, when you qualified your roof area that is going to be affected, you're going to be virtually removing most of the roof area.
Well,
In order for you
there-
to retrofit your second floor.
there is a re-roofing of the first floor that will be required, but it's really a cut-in and a modification of framing. But we are, part of the scheme of the design is to maintain the existing house in the manner that it was previously, and only making a modification where re-roofing is required or where a match to a certain line is necessary.
Okay, you realize that if that, based on the description, if it goes more than 50% removal rule, then you're going to observe new setbacks. I mean, your minimum setback will go all the way to 10 feet. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Sure, I understand what's at stake.
Okay, all right, so let's
Is there
just...
more
square footage being added?
More square footage
On the
to,
second floor,
no,
compared to this plan?
no, what it is, honestly, don't know how this got here, other than there was a draftsman that was working at that time, long ago when we made the submission. This diagram matches this footprint.
Okay, there you go. See, we had concerns about that
Yes,
too, because we
and
couldn't read the
that
plan.
was well placed.
It was impossible to understand the overall.
This is the actual footprint, and you can see how it matches, lines up here.
Right, so that kind of concerns me about your roof count on the percentage, because it doesn't pass the eyeball test. That's more than 46% of the thing that you're going to have to...
But that's less,
No, that's
that's
the
not as big
combination.
as all the exterior walls added to that.
Right, you might be under 50, I'm just saying it's probably closer to 30-something than 20.
The thing is, if we miss something, you'll get caught.
No, it's going
It just makes things more difficult
That's
for
fine.
you. So if
We're just
you're
trying to make it
interested,
easier.
disclose and...
No, I understand, and I appreciate it. The question regards shutters. Your objection, Mr. Simonian, as I understood it previously, was that it didn't make sense to have the shutters if they don't match on the other side. And you recall in this, your objection here was that, why are these shutters here? They should have shutters on the outside, on both sides of the windows, right? And my response to that was that the owner wishes to keep the scheme that exists on the house, which is what you took issue with, and so to balance between their desire and your aesthetic concern, the solution really seemed to be, because they don't want to change all the first floor windows, and they want these to match, so the solution seemed to be eliminate the shutter if it doesn't make sense to the board, and that way now they all match, and the windows on the first floor didn't have to be changed.
Well, without getting into a long-winded discussion, I think there was a misunderstanding. And I don't just think...
Did I mischaracterize your
I think
concern?
so, and I'll address it, but I think that there's something nice about the shutters, and for a one-story home, it does work. And-
But you're saying that this doesn't make sense if it's only on one side of the window. And so if you want to keep the shutters, the solution is to change the windows, but you're imposing a huge cost and expense on the owner to change out windows so that they match an aesthetic concern. So if the shutter is the issue and it can't match, then...
Again, without going really into it, which I don't think is the time right now to do it, but you're missing my point, and it just goes back to some of the comments I made earlier where we prescribe some conditions, and it's very easy to just check off the box and say, we've done it. However, that is not the case here. So we'll address it, but I did have some questions for you.
Sure.
Specifically, About the color, we mentioned that we had some item number 6, where the color chart appears to be dark. Did you introduce new colors, or is it the same color as before?
It's the same color. We eliminated the black that was going to be a feature, a black shutter. But that Admiral Blue is the color that they want for the house. And it's not out of line with many of the other houses in the neighborhood. And the other thing is, in terms of visual reaction to light, the darker color is a smaller visual image than a brightly colored house that reflects more light. So we felt that the owner felt that that Admiral Blue is the color that they want. They would eliminate the black, which was going to be a feature of the shutters, since the shutters are no longer part of the design.
So I can see that the facial boards, you made it more
Yes.
more
Those-
realistic.
From 11 1/4, which would
Right.
be nominal 12-inch,
Right.
to 7.5.
To 7.5.
8
went to a
nominal.
2x8
Yeah.
thing. I think what that comment I made, because the existing house looks much lighter roof than what you were depicting. It was kind of heavier on top.
And to balance it, we also made these match. These are now 7.5, rather than 5.5, which were 6x6.
There are also few details that you're changing, which is not depicted here. The existing house has a wood siding on this side on top of it. Which, are you eliminating that? And
No, I think it didn't read.
Well,
And
yeah, you see what I mean? Because on the
no, that's on the front. On the back, it's stucco. But we have just, that's the front of the house.
That's the front of the house.
Right. On the back.
Right.
On the back of the house, it's stucco. You know how the.
No, I understand, but I mean front of the house, because you mentioned that they want to keep the existing
Right.
treatments and all. There is
I don't believe that's. No, you're looking at the roof. That's stucco.
that's stucco there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in answer to that question, the engineers weighed in, and because there's going to be some shear walls required, this is probably all going to be siding.
Nice.
So, on the site plan, is that the existing footprint of the house?
Yes, this is the more accurate. Although the footprint of the existing house hasn't changed. It was this that was off. This.
In other words, where is just a plain old existing site plan that predicts, that portrays the existing location of the house as is?
Right here. And here as well. This color.
But that pink portion is an addition portion, correct?
Exactly. This is addition.
And then you're portraying also the second floor, you're illustrating the second floor on that drawing as well.
Right. Second floor addition on this violet line. That was what I understood was what you wanted in order to be able to see what the net effect of setbacks to trees and so forth, and the setback to the rest of the house, I guess, in terms of addition versus existing.
And as far as preserving the oak tree, protected oak tree,
Totally.
there you have recommendations and everything that you have already.
Yes, and this is a sycamore, not an oak.
No, I understand. The other one is
Right, this one is the oak, and we're well beyond the 10-foot requirement on any new construction.
the city.
Yes, I've talked with Bill McKinley. He's visited the site 2 times, and we've gone over and over what are solutions when you have to be up close, because I had another project where we did have to be near. And so we've actually gone through the entire ordinance in terms of preservation.
But he gave you
Yes.
recommendations and requirements.
None on this project. On this
Not on this
project,
project?
well, the standard, which is you protect it and you can't
That's what I'm
allow,
saying.
yes, you cannot allow the root structure
So
to.
generally speaking, they give us that, they give you the information and you
Right.
include it in the plans.
Right.
That's why.
It wasn't, he didn't make it a requirement on this project, because we're 20 feet 32 feet and 26 feet from this, so it's generally when you're like under the drip line is when all these larger concerns are triggered.
And I understand that, but not necessarily that's the only time, because whenever you have a protected oak tree, there are some prescribed requirements that you cannot disturb the tree itself, because during construction, when you're not there, people are going to go underneath the tree, they're going to disturb it, they might, by mistake, they can actually dig underneath the drip line. You see what I'm saying? If you don't have those notes there, if you don't have those requirements there, that needs to be protected. That's what I'm...
Absolutely.
So we didn't see that notes that were missing from last time, and that was one of my concerns.
What is the material of the existing fireplace?
It's a slump block made of concrete that is kind of made to look like slump. Well, you're familiar with it. It's a typical like concrete block, but it's made slump, so it looks like adobe.
And it's been painted over time.
Right. So again, they don't want to remove that, so we're going to add the same type of block in it.
Okay, gentlemen, we want to move on. Do you have any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may say something
Yes.
about the Urban Forest has stamped off on the proposed plans. With every stamp or sign off of those proposed plans, there are mitigation measures that are followed with every
So
approval.
they are there?
Yes, they are there.
Yeah, because they were not included on the plans, that's why.
Correct. They're not there.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the public session is closed. Who wants to go first? Can I go first?
I'll go first on this one. And I'm going to have quite a bit of comments to go over on this project. And in a way, I think this project is a perfect analog for us to talk about, and why there's been a lot of movement in the Design Review Board as far as creating the urban design team and so forth. We're continually faced with this kind of a predicament where we provide some comments and conditions, and it could be interpreted many different ways by a designer and architect. And that is human nature, and that's what is occurring here. And at the same time, an architect or a designer could come back 3, 4, 5 times, and it gets to be a drag on this board and so forth, and everyone gets frustrated. This is one of those instances where I think there's some sort of a miscommunication, perhaps, or misunderstanding between the board, or maybe more specifically my comments and the designer, as was portrayed earlier. The designer was definitely confused and was asking me, I thought you said that, but that's not what I had said, or that's not what I thought I had said. And in fact, I was pretty clear of what my intentions were. We brought this case back on a continuation because we lacked information. The biggest hurdles at that point in time was that we needed more clarity in the drawings, and we were focusing on it because the overall average home size in the area is 2,300 square feet, and this home is going to be 3,358 square feet, so it's a very large home, and so we need to be careful as to how we approach it and the design and the details and so forth. We had a site plan that wasn't clear as to the existing layout of the building, and then it also had superimposed on it or illustrated on it the second, third, or the second floor plan and the roof plan. And that's why we asked for 8-scale plans for clarification, and the idea isn't that for them to be exactly 8-scale when you reduce them, because we all know once you reduce a drawing, you lose the scale. The idea is to have the site boundaries and the property lines illustrating the second floor with the roof line of the first floor below. And that way, when we're assessing the project and we're over there at the site looking at it, we're able to understand what your vision is for the site. And that is important, because your vision is what you're illustrating to us on a piece of paper. And without that information, we couldn't make a logical conclusion of how this was going to look. There were some very legitimate concerns that were made about the 50% calculation, which, as I think our discussion a few moments ago illustrated, there's still some major gaps in our understanding and the numbers that have been portrayed. The overall aesthetic aspects of the existing home is quite charming, and I'll go on record on saying that. I like the way the shutters are placed. I think it works with the design. I think the overall roof layout, the overall language of the windows is very nice, and it's compatible with the overall area. And I think some of that is lost as we're going on to the second floor addition. And the idea is to use this board and to use these comments to bring it back and to make it a better design. And so I think that didn't occur this time around because there was 2 weeks, and so the group hasn't had time to opine on it. The staff has not had time to really focus in on it, and we haven't really received any drawings, really. I mean, we just got the conditions, that was it, and we're looking at the drawings for the first time. A lot of the comments that I had made 2 weeks ago stand, so I don't think I should go over them one by one. I think the applicant could simply get the tape and hear them out and try to understand it. But I think this is one of those instances where Ms. Reich is going to have to work very closely with the applicant to try to go through this process, because this might be one of those situations where it's going to take a little bit of effort. And she's kind of having a conversation right now. She has no idea we're addressing her, but I'm sorry, Ms. Reich. As I was saying, this is one of those instances where it's going to be beneficial for your group to really sit down with the drafter, with the designer, because I think there's going to be this miscommunication going back and forth. And it's happened in the past, and we're trying to avoid that. And so I'm not going to go over my comments again, but I think there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of details to provide. The shutters absolutely need to come back. And everything that was said 2 weeks ago hasn't been addressed. So, Mr. Chairman, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yu?
I think it's very hard to be able to kind of see it first time here and be able to talk about it in a sense that the drawings that are up there, they're there. There's some information is there for the most part. But just things like the site plan, all these hatches everywhere, it just kind of confuses the drawing. It's hard to distinguish what the second floor footprint is on there. So it kind of gets in the way of actually critiquing and taking a look at the architectural portion of it. The floor plans, I understand you put the 1/8" scale ones, but there's no real floor plans like those that are in a quarter scale where you can get a sense for the project that are missing from those. The elevations in the floor plans, window locations don't match. It makes it hard to see the project all the way through on that. The different window types that have been added to the south and to the west elevation, they don't coincide with each other. They're very sort of scattered. They look almost like they were done sort of different periods, of the life of the house. I appreciate that you did reduce the fascia sizes and beefed up the columns to give them a little better proportion, but I think there's still some things that are really missing on the project, including the colors that we had discussed in the last meeting. So I concur with you. I think there's a lot of issues that still need to be worked out before it comes back again.
Just a couple of questions of clarification. Typically, our submittal requirements don't require an existing site plan to be submitted. Is that something the board is interested in seeing in the future so that we could help guide our applicants?
I think that when it comes to an addition that is not just we're adding a square footage in the back or it's clearly depictable in a site plan, if it's sort of we're adding 5 square feet here, 10 square feet here, those kinds of things, I think we do need something to look at as a starting point to be able to.
So for the site plan, you'd like to see the proposed site plan, but with the existing structure clearly depicted on the site plan.
Correct.
Okay. Also, in the staff report, the comments that you made on the design were staff's best interpretation of the comments. If I don't know if you've reviewed those, but do those comments if you could maybe take a moment to review and see if that reflects your comments with the clarification that rather than simply restudying the shutters, the preference is to study the placement of the shutters so that not to remove the shutters, but they should be maintained as an important character-defining piece or character-building piece of the project. Other than that, we just want to check to see that your comments were accurately reflected.
That's all I have. Okay, Mr. Alino, I know you were not here last time, but...
No, that's okay. I think I can still manage it. Yeah, it's. I didn't hear the comments, but I trust that they were fine comments. I'll just sort of piggyback and add some more to it. I think there's a lot of great information here. The thing that I find hard is that it seems to me that just if I squint and I look at the elevation and I look at the plan, the design is sort of kind of bursting at the seams. That's trying to put a second story on this house that maximizes the floor area, and you can clearly see it. I mean, even the shape of the footprint of the second floor, it's kind of. Why is it this sort of rectangular shape just plopped on top of the existing building? Because you can see it. You just have to squint and hide this. It's like two houses, one on top of each other. There's no integration of, the only thing that we see that's integrated is maybe these columns that kind of penetrate through, but even that, it's still not. Which to me, it feels like almost like a duplex, because you got this sort of veranda here that ties two units, and it's, it has an entry here, it doesn't really have an entry there, but so the symmetrical nature of it really, I think, is not what this project needs. I think all you got to do is just even this picture here kind of says it clearly. There's a really nice asymmetrical quality about the project that it would be great to sort of respect that and build from that rather than just sort of deal with symmetry and try to go in that direction, because it's not. It looks massive. I know that this house is not as big as it looks, but because you have all these little gables, one matching the other side, and then at the top it's sort of almost like maybe a 70% reduction. And you Xerox machine and you reduce it and you put it on top, but it's the same thing. I think this needs quite a bit of study in my mind. So I don't know that I can even work with the details, because I think the massing of this project, in my view, needs to change so that it really captures the quality of the existing building and captures the nature of the existing building too, which is not really about symmetry. So, we can talk about the windows and the shutters. I think those are already been commented on, so I'm not going to really be redundant. I trust that whatever Sonia suggested is right on. So I really want to focus on that idea of sort of rethinking this project in terms of, why should it be this sort of rigid shape that just sits on top of the house? Why can't it be something a little bit more picturesque, which is what the existing house is all about? So this is sort of like I'm giving general comments, and again, it's kind of risky, but I think what I would suggest, maybe we'll come to a consensus, is one of these projects where it does have to go back to staff, and the applicant needs to work with the staff to make sure that before it comes back to us, there is a direction that's more consistent with what I'm suggesting and what others are going to be suggesting and suggested already. So it could be a really great project. I just don't think it's there yet, but it could be.
And I think there's the graphics of the presentation itself is very confusing at times. And what we had the first time around, it was really first floor, second floor, roof floor, and existing all mashed together with some elevation, so it was very difficult to understand what windows were, where spaces were, and then now we have an 8-scale floating plans, again, without any kind of relationship, which are colored again, which are very hard to read, and black and white plans, I think, are much simpler and easier to understand. And I think your comments are right on, Mr. Aliano, in that this is just an overall reworking, I think, of the massing and design is what needs to occur here, if I could be so frank. You know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, exactly. And that's really the first thing that we look at anyways, is massing, site plan, before we even get too far into the architecture, because if these two things are not correct, there's no point in, having other things, because it will change. Once you change the massing, you could start, the building will suggest other things, and you have to deal with those other things. So, sorry I can't offer much more than that, but that's really, I think that's what needs to happen, is sort of have a new look at this.
Okay, well, I generally agree with the comments. I think what is happening is that last time we didn't have enough information. We were feeling the same way, because we just didn't have the information to proceed actually with the design of it. And when you're looking at it, it's just that it seems to us that it's as if one would just take one element of the existing and then just repeat it all over the place on the second floor. There's not a kind of an authentic and honest kind of approach, to come up with something that is more articulated, it's more fitting in the neighborhood. And the neighborhood is quite beautiful. I mean, there are fantastic houses there. Besides a few of the structures that, I don't want to mention, but there are beautiful houses in that area there. Yeah. We don't want, I just want to make sure that now this addition is going to change the whole landscape there. And it's a house that you see immediately when you're driving up. So, no, I agree with your comments. I don't want to, drag this more than this. I think they definitely have to clarify their plans. That's one point. But I think the staff wants us to be a little bit more specific as far as when we are saying we want clarity on the plans, what we are expecting. And that we need to have clarified. Because otherwise they will come back again and then we'll have superimposed plans on top of each other. No? No? We're okay. All right, so the stuff is saying we're okay. Great. This is good.
We made some comments already, so I think,
So it's okay.
Yeah, all we need to know, we've heard your comments this time, and if the repeated comments are as were recorded in the staff report, then I think we have enough information to work with the applicant prior to it coming back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So with that said, is there a motion?
You can go ahead, and I'll second it if you want to do it.
I move for this project to be redesigned.
Come back for redesign?
Come back for redesign.
I second that. I think that's the right way to go.
Okay,
roll call.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question in regards to the just one last clarification. The board agrees with all of the previous comments that were made on January 10th. I will then include those again as
for their consideration.
For their consideration and restudy.
That's a good idea.
Would you mind, would you mind reading them just so that I hear them, even though I probably...
Yes, sir. First comment was to provide 8-scale plans to provide better clarification and clear depiction. Second comment was to provide 50% calculations to reassure that the scope of work will not trigger new construction. Third comment was to provide a site plan that overlays the proposed first and second story. Comment number 4 was to restudy the fascia board size.
Which I think was addressed.
That was
Okay,
addressed.
so I can eliminate that.
Well,
No.
yeah, I mean, you can, but he's going to have to take a look at it in the whole context of things. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Comment number 5 was to restudy the south elevation. Number 6 was the color chart appears to be dark, to provide, the applicant provide a new color scheme. And the last comment was to restudy the placement of the shutters.
Well, I think those could probably stay, but, if we have bigger picture comments, some of those
The overall massing.
either overridden or depends on the direction that they take.
Correct.
I think we have a sense of the larger comments as well. Those don't need to be repeated.
Okay. Okay, with that, I have a motion by Mr. Simonian and a second by Mr. Aliano. This is roll call. Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Zarabians?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
So our third case is 1 PDR 2007-094C, 1344 Thompson Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. This item was presented before you last on October 25th, 2007. This is the third time submittal for final review. As mentioned by you, this is located at 1344 Thompson Avenue. This property is zoned R1, floor area District 1. The applicant is proposing to add 197 square feet to the first floor, a brand-new second floor of 941 to an existing 1,293 square foot house. The total floor area at the completion of the project will result in 2,431 square feet of livable space. At the last meeting, the board made several comments concerning some design elements on the overall project, which touched on the rotunda, the balcony to the rear, as well as the setback and the treatment of the exterior, which I can go over if you like me to, of the comments. But otherwise, I will run over the changes that have been made by the applicant. I have placed the old and the new plan side by side. The new one is on the left and the old one's on the right. As you can see on the front elevation, the rotunda element still remains. However, it has been reduced in scale and also in terms of the design. The columns has been removed and the size has been reduced, although it appears that it is a little bit higher than the previous entry element. The other comments that the board touched on was concerning the rear balcony, which originally the applicant proposed to use to treat it with stucco. The new design shows wooden posts instead. That was a specific statement made by the board. Also concerning the balcony, the board suggested that maybe the roof could be removed or reduced in reduction in the size of the balcony. However, the new design still shows a covered balcony and the size remained the same. And the other comment concerns the veneer being used, whether the board has stated that consider removing and using stucco on the entire house. So that's what the applicant did in this case. And regarding the front setback, the applicant has changed the setback to 28 feet, which is consistent with the property to the north as well. So that, I think, pretty much concludes my presentation of the changes that have been made.
Young, the material board illustrates a roof, a composite shingle roof, but the elevations illustrate some sort of a terracotta tile.
Correct.
Which is it, do you know?
It's the tile.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
And these are the accurate colors? This is the latest set
That's
of
the
colors?
latest.
That's the
That's
latest
the only
version?
version that we received. And you can see that the colors change a little, but
Sure.
I believe it still remains the same. Is that correct? The applicant is here to address the issue.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions from the staff?
No.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I have one card. Franco Naravian. That's the wrong address, that's why. Franco Naravian, because that's what I was asking, are you sure? Please state your name and address for the board.
Franco Naravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I'm the architect for the project. Basically, one correction, the balcony it may not look like we reduced it, but it actually is 18 inches smaller. The porch in the back is 18 inches smaller. Not much, but a little bit smaller. Decided to keep it mainly because of concerns with the rain and sun beating down on the doors, and we wanted some protection. The color, maybe you can look through and find the right one, but that's not the right one. It's a two-piece S-tile, kind of a brownish in color. And the exact stucco color, kind of in between what we had submitted on the old plans and the new plans. The color is in between those two. As far as, I think the main area of concern was that originally we had tried to match in massing and setback the property directly to the north. And that did not get approved, and so last time a suggestion was made, and I thought it was a very good suggestion, to take the mass from the south side out of the building by pushing the entry in that corner. And I think that worked. I think that's much better.
Yeah, no, it looks pretty good, I mean, as far as the corner is concerned.
Right.
I have a question to ask you.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happened in the whole context of things on the right elevation. Why did we lose all that, the corbels and the overhang? How come we've lost that, all of that? What happened to this elevation? When we went from there to just a simple wall there?
I think in changing some of the square footages, it was either smaller before and got bigger, or I can't remember. But, oh, yeah, that's right. The lower floor was pushed in more, and in doing some of these, I pushed the wall back out. But that side really, I mean, it's only a side yard setback, so you can't really see it that much. But if you want us to, it would require pushing the wall back in, making that lower room smaller.
No, we will discuss that, but I was just wondering what happened there suddenly,
Right.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I mean, you want?
No, that's about it, if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions
I
from
can't tell, the windows I was trying to read,
Wood windows.
Wood windows.
Yeah, wood windows.
Is the color correctly represented in the three-dimensional drawing?
No, I wish we could find that. It's
It's in the
like I said, it's more, the correct color is between the old plans and new plans elevations. On the perspective, I can't get my computer to print the exact color, so it's always a little bit off. But it's like a, what do you call that? Beige, some sort of off-white color with a brown. The roof is really kind of brown. The roof that we're proposing, it's not your typical red clay tile roof.
There's actually a gable here, huh?
No, that's a hip roof.
A hip roof?
Yes.
They're all hips,
Yes,
okay.
everything is hip. I think we used to have a gable, and a comment was made to eliminate that gable, so we did.
Okay, but, so you got rid, so this is the only gable you have?
Yeah, and that's because the master bedroom is vaulted. That's the only reason.
That's on the side yard.
Right.
On the side. But you introduced, basically wood
mhm.
posts
Yes.
and corbels and everything.
Yes.
And that's what we were actually suggesting to do. It's just that the sizes of it, it's more of like a country looking, to me. With all the braces and all of that, couldn't you actually beef up those posts to a little bit heavier timber looking?
Sure.
With the corbels and everything? What would you say?
You can go to 8 by 8,
Would you open
maybe.
to that, or?
Yeah.
Well, what are these? They're not like 8 by 8? They're less?
They're probably 6 by 6, but I can make them 8 by 8.
Kind
6
of.
by 6 is kind of, yeah, 8 by 8 would be nice.
And then so this is what I kind of didn't like, but that could be remedied. This plaster that was added there.
Yeah, you're gonna get flashing there too. But it's in the rear, right?
Yeah, they had a railing actually over here. Well, they could have actually introduced the top railing over there to open it up a little bit.
By the way, I should mention that the idea of the rear porch came from the property to the north that has actually a much larger rear porch, 2-story.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Ravi, I'm sorry, if I could bug you one more time.
Okay,
If you
Mr.
were-
Ravian, can you approach,
Yeah.
please?
If you brought this to actually the intersection right about here, in other words, if you brought the balcony in further, you may not even need to have that plaster all the way around.
Right.
You could eliminate, you maybe have a little, like a little strip, a little.
Yeah. So to make the balcony smaller, the cover
If
porch
you
smaller.
brought this plane
Yeah.
to here,
Right.
you're not reducing, I think it actually will help with this sort of stepping.
Yeah,
idea, you know?
absolutely.
Then you come in a little bit more as opposed to this being almost close to this plane.
Right.
Because you end up with a very strange tiling at this corner because you're cutting the tile there.
Mhm.
You have a hip and then you have to step down. It'd be a lot cleaner if you stayed with the intersection of the hip to this plane. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it will look better.
It'll be much, much nicer.
Yeah. And, it will reduce everything. I mean, it will reduce this by a bit.
Yeah, if you recall, this was a house that was in the neighborhood that was predominantly one story.
Right, right.
And we were trying to find avenues to justify the second story, which is allowed. But you had to massage the setback, we had to do some front redesign and so on and so forth. So it's working out good as far as the stepping back and all of that is concerned.
The windows are
Do you-
all wood.
Did you designate this thing did you classify this thing as a kind of contemporary Spanish or?
I think originally I had said Mediterranean or Tuscan, but now it's looking
It's
more
not
Spanish.
Tuscan anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have no stones and stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say, I mean, I'm looking at the entry and top, and then you have like three windows side by side.
Right.
It's just not so, what you see normally classically in these kind of buildings.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? So, I mean, if it's a contemporary kind of treatment of this thing, it's a different issue. But to me, everything is looking more rustic, and you get more of a nice, authentic, heavy beams and so on and so forth. So, would you object to eliminating the other two on the sides?
Oh,
And
no,
just go
one
with
is
one
fine.
or
Just
something,
one
or-
window is okay.
One plane, right?
No, he's talking about the windows on top of the arch.
On top of the turret.
Oh, you get rid of that?
He's
Yeah,
got like
because it
three.
kind of competes with that.
Yeah.
What are you suggesting? How many?
Well, I mean,
I think you could best portray it here.
Right.
Do you even need them?
it's right here, you can see him here.
I don't think you really need them.
Yeah, well, if the entry actually was made higher, then you can just put a nice lantern, a giant lantern that is Spanish looking. It will be much nicer that way, right on top of the entry. That's much nicer. And you can actually add, as far as I'm concerned, you can actually add some sort of a detailed surround, with a precast or something.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think
they normally
Right.
Actually, a nice ornate tile.
I mean, you
tile
could-
or
Yeah.
precast or something, because it would
could,
be very
You
nice.
could create a little peak here and not...
Kind of an
have that.
Adobe
Right.
kind of
Yeah, you could
detail or
bring
something.
it up, have a
You know what I
little
mean?
more...
And that would be much nicer, because plan-wise, it works now better. This is much nicer, that you're entering on the side, and you have the entry there, and, it just goes very nicely. And what about this window here? I mean,
That's the main window of the living
you
room.
didn't want to have a nice kind of a larger picture window or something that is
It is a picture
really
window.
classical?
But
You mean like
why have
arched?
a-
Is
Why
that what
do you
you
have a
Why-
divider inside?
How about not lowering it and making it really kind of a
Big window?
picture window?
Yeah, we can do that.
Goes behind that wall.
The what?
TV doesn't go behind.
TV, no.
Because that's going to tremendously improve this thing. If you can lower it,
Right.
make it much nicer
Make it
picture.
all no operation, just
Yeah,
one big glass.
exactly.
One big glass.
And that will approach the intent, It will be much classical.
I would even try to see if you can bring some of the detail on the header,
Yeah,
That's a good
absolutely.
suggestion. I like that.
Tie that, because then this is the entrance round, and then you have a little detail on the header to
Beautiful.
match that.
Sure.
You got this, and it will look great. So,
Yeah.
good work.
And so the only thing, Mr. Naravian, would remain is this. I still don't understand what happened to our nice overhangs and everything
Overhang.
here, suddenly. Because when you're driving there, you're going to be seeing it. I know it's
very
side,
easy
but I
to
mean,
take it.
it is, but I mean, I don't know why
You mean the
it
Corvus here?
diminished. Well,
Right.
this is what they had. It was much nicer, you know what I mean? But it just kind of diminished afterwards.
I think it's a plan thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically the room got a foot bigger because we took away some of the square footage that was in that front corner. I applied the square footage elsewhere, but if you want me to.
Are you right on the setback limit on the second floor?
Yes.
You go out 1 more feet?
No, I cannot go out. I have, if you want that cantilever, I have to go in.
The first
Lower floor has to go in, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, those are the...
I don't think you could go in as a
suites kind of...
I think
This is a great, yeah, that's absolutely...
The room becomes,
Non-functional?
the proportions.
You have the corbels here, which was eliminated here. See, over here, when you have a kind of a fascia,
Mhm.
kind of, do you intend to put some sort of a wood fascia here?
Well, just the tile going over,
While going over a fascia?
over filtration, yes.
When you have something like this, actually your corbels was much nicer
Right.
this. So if you want to do this thing, then you want to bring the plaster and just turn it, you know what I mean? And without the corbels.
Right.
But I mean, if you're going to be using that detail, actually the corbels should be replaced there, should be there.
Okay.
And then the windows are wood.
Right.
And are you going to be recessing the windows a little bit? Or what are you doing for your exterior? This is a brand new
Brand new?
building? or
Well, it's not brand new, but it's...
You're going over
technically-
50%.
No, we're not going over 50%. The existing house has a flat roof, and I'm keeping all that.
Are you going to be keeping any of the windows, existing windows?
No existing windows. But, okay, so the problem is that we just had this discussion actually on another project that I'm doing. To recess the window, the walls have to go from 2x4 to 2x6. And
Right.
usually that's an added cost, which
You get better
clients
insulation.
usually don't want to incur. So if it's...
$1.80 a stud?
Well,
Okay.
I'm just telling you the interaction I have with
Of
my
course, of
client.
course.
So if it's possible to do maybe the front windows or the windows that are visible, and not all of them, that would help the client, but...
But you know what, Franco, these buildings look really great when the walls feel thick.
Thick, yeah.
You know, you're lucky you don't have to build it like they used to when the walls were 1.5 feet deep. Right?
Right,
In Adobe, I mean, so 2x6 will give you deeper windows. You get the insulation value,
Right.
which is a plus. That's
Right.
the way, get much better insulation, and it makes a more efficient house, energy-wise. So 2x4 studs are like puny for this style of house. It doesn't...
Gives you an opportunity, 2x6 will give you an opportunity to bullnose the corners where we don't normally have
It'll
that.
look great.
Right.
It'll be much, much nicer. I think those areas that you're dealing with existing studs, 2x4s,
Right.
don't change them.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
Because we don't have to have everything symmetric. I mean, you don't have to have the same type of window treatment. I mean, the function I understand, but I mean, as far as treating, some of your upper windows could be really deep-set windows,
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So if you go 2x6 on the second floor at least, I think that's a compromise, which is a good one. I think it will be to the benefit of the house itself. It will
But
be
the
nice.
first floor, you're not suggesting doing the deep.
Anything that is new, I would say, you can do it, but, I mean, if he has to, let's say, do a 2x6, obviously, he's not going to be able to do entire stretch.
But then how do you deal with the window treatment and the surrounds? and
Because he's
everything?
using a wood window, wood windows have a tendency to be deep anyway. I mean, they have a certain detail there that
Right.
it's not unlike vinyl windows that
Right.
are...
What I'm
But you are going to have some flush condition.
Yeah.
Kind of be troubling.
And then there's just, well,
Basically,
I'll be
a lot of
much
things
more
might
happy-
change
if we give them that flexibility of going back and forth. Might be hard to assess what the final outcome might result in because we don't have the drawings.
That's why I say if you say all the front windows, then the back of the house is a porch. Both floors have porches, so the windows don't really make that much difference, right?
Well, front of the house, you're going to have, they're not existing. You're
No,
gonna
front of the
have-
house is all
Oh, yeah,
new.
so what I was saying is, anything that is new
Right.
wall, which will include the front of the
Front of the
house,
house.
will be 2x6.
Right.
So we're only talking about those remote areas that on the side,
This and these.
Yeah.
here.
Right, but-
Exactly.
and
which if you're trying to keep that 50% rule, then actually it's easier not to open up the entire walls, because when you open up the walls, you know what you're going to find out inside
Right,
the walls.
right.
But even with a 2x6, you could still figure out a way to flush the window in the interior.
with a 2x6?
Even with a 2x4, you could do it. I've done it.
Uh-huh.
You could flush the windows on the interior. You'll probably get maybe an inch return plaster, but it's still a lot better than making a flush.
Right.
Can we
should try to-
qualify our
Do you want
comment?
to give me how much? What are you looking for?
Well, on
1
a
inch? 2 inch?
2x6, you flush the interior and whatever you have left.
Okay.
On a 2x6, you get at least 2.5 inches.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, any additional comments? Mr. Yu, you didn't say anything, I mean.
No, I mean, I wasn't here for the first few review times, but I think that the design, you've dealt with the changes, and you've made the building better, and I think the color is a lot nicer, a little more muted. The tile actually gives it a nice contrast to it, and it's well done. I think the entry has gotten a lot better with the stone, sort of just not making little pieces out of it, but an actual getting rid of it and making the whole thing as a whole. I would concur and say that maybe the entry you might want to make a little bit even higher. I think it kind of loses a little bit of the prominence as it hides behind sort of the front mass there. So I would be okay with going a little higher on that. Window-wise, I think you have a good point with the 3. I don't know quite how you would deal with that, but I mean, as is, I'm okay with, but, maybe make a suggestion that you change it out too. But I think you've come a long way with the drawings, and you have made the changes that we had talked about, or they had talked about in the previous meeting, and I would be okay with approving it as is.
Okay, very good. Mr. Mooney, do you have any comments?
Well, I think that the architect did a very nice job with this remodel, and he's done a very good, he has a good understanding of our comments that were made, and so this is a good example of our comments being used and then coming up with a design that accommodates those comments, as opposed to just simply checking them off. I think some of my concerns were certainly dealt with, and if not all, and if I could just really point out the top 3 minor issues that I had with. I still had an issue with that rear porch, and I think what Mr. Aliano recommended is a very good solution for it. I also had an issue with the right elevation, and I'm looking at your as your first floor space, and it's only 10 feet wide. However, you do have that second story, that 2-story roundabout stairway entrance, so you might be able to work around that and push that in to get us some nice corbels on that right elevation, because I think the left elevation does a really good job with that. And some of the comments that were made with that rotunda, I agree with as well. I think the windows do compete, and making that living room window bigger on the entrance side is certainly a good option. Overall, as the front setback in this area is 25 feet, and you're providing 28, and I think you've done the best or the successful part of this design is the fact that you were able to push that entrance in. You were able to push the rotunda in based on some of the comments. You were able to create a nice landscape buffer zone in that southern portion or the southwest portion of the site, which is successful. So overall, I support the project. I think it's a good design and a good foot in the right direction.
Excellent. Mr. Orlino?
Yeah, I made some comments. I think you already touched upon, the balcony or the second story. We could put that in, recess that a little bit. One thought I had was, I wonder, if this little sliver of plaster in the end wants to be plaster, maybe it could even be a nice, you could clad it with some nice decorative tile so that it's a different material, and it might kind of blend with the tile a little bit. I'm thinking more like a decorative painted tile, Mexican sort of
Authentic.
style, which is quite attractive.
In fact, around the entrance rotunda, I think that would be a
Yeah,
very
you can tie that with the front as well. So that way you don't end up with a little sliver. And then the flashing there also has to be worked out, but with tile, the one thing that I didn't mention was, at all possible, S-shaped tiles are not really, it's not S-shaped.
It's 2-piece.
Oh, so
Yeah,
you
you
change it from
mentioned
an
that,
S shape, okay, so it's 2-piece,
Two-piece.
perfect.
It's a two-piece
That's the way to go. And what else? I think there was a comment on the wind that's already been talked about, with the lintel. I don't think I have anything else to add besides that. I think it's all been covered. Thank
That's
you.
it? Thank you. Certainly, with Mr. Nurabian, it's a delight to work with you. No, seriously, because the comments, you're not just taking it like my colleague here, Mr. Simonian, is saying, you're not just going one at a time and then just checking it off. You really understood what was going on. And throughout these 3 times that we met with each other, we are, I don't want to say we are sad to see that you're coming back to us, but the thing is that it was to better the project, and it was to your advantage, and I think it made a lot of improvement. And your understanding of what our concerns were really helped it, and you did not fight with the ideas that we were presenting to you. That is a key element, because a lot of people will come and then they'll fight with whatever we are saying. They will not even do a couple of sketch and bring it back to us. But you completely went and redid the elevation based on the new design, and you colored it and brought it for us. So I think the more information that comes to us, we'll be able to facilitate this decision faster. So I want to appreciate that. Nevertheless, I agree with all the comments, and I think we should make those comments and make it part of the conditions, and I'll definitely support the project with those comments.
Right. There was one item that I forgot to mention, and there's a note on the drawing that talks about the plaster, it calls it smooth plaster. I think given the character of this building and the quality that we're going to get, it would be great to specify the real smooth plaster, which is done with a steel trowel. And there's many companies that can give you that. The actual, it's primarily handcrafted, but I think it will really be great here, because with the smooth trowel, you don't get that sort of, that, it's not really what's called stucco. It doesn't have that sort of texture, that sort of, with the steel trowel, you get smooth.
Sand finish or...
Yeah, and then, you get more cracks with smooth trowel, but you can always paint it in the future, and it works just fine, so. Plus, the cracks add character.
Okay, great. So if there's a motion to entertain, and also let's make sure that we get all the comments.
Okay.
These are...
Why don't I go over the comments you've made so far?
Okay.
First one incorporates second floor cantilever on the north elevation, which is the right elevation. Does that mean including the cobbles as well?
Well, for that, I think we heard a couple of different ideas. Because you said it's okay on the right elevation to leave it the way it is. Is that what
I'm okay. I mean,
you're okay with it?
Yeah.
Is it possible to...
Strongly, I think we'll support you. What did you have in mind?
No. What I'm saying is Mr. Simonian also was concerned about that. Do you want to retain it the way it is, or we strongly feel about it? And
My thoughts were that I had 3 main comments, just looking at it, and it was the rear patio, which I think is pretty easy to specify, and how we're going to pull that back to the ridge of the space below. The second was the right elevation, and that is just one big smooth wall, and I thought the left elevation was much more successful, and if it's possible to do it by working around the lower level, which I think it is, I think it'll be a much nicer southern facade, because everything is sort of one story, and you'll see this. So I think that's what's important, is to be sympathetic to the fact that the next door is one story, and the one to the south of that is one story. So that I feel strongly about it, unless...
No, that's fine. If you feel strongly, that's what I'm saying. I support
To have that break.
Yeah, to have that break.
Corbel.
Yeah, he understands it. I mean, he can go ahead and do it.
I'll support that.
All right, so...
Okay, use heavier wood posts for the rear balcony, preferably 8 by 8. Further reduce the depth of the rear balcony and incorporate decorative tiles on top of the railings.
It's a suggestion. He has to.
The tile is
I think if he moves that frame back, he's going to virtually eliminate that, because the roof can go itself, and it becomes a kind of a mansard, if you will. So just eliminate the plaster. We don't want to see any plaster there, so he can take care of it with the roof tile itself.
You'll end up, we have to have a cap there, so water doesn't come back into the...
Right.
You have to have a little bit of a curb.
What are the last comment about the columns? I think we also wanted to do it with the braces and in turn have the larger columns.
Okay, eliminate the braces.
Right, wasn't that one of the?
Well, yeah, we didn't want to have braces per se.
And a larger column.
But we wanted to have
Yeah.
well, he's showing braces on the corners of the post and the beam on top.
Oh, I read it more like a block that's carved.
That's right.
That would be nice.
They're like corbels, they're not braces.
Oh, they're corbels, okay.
Well, they're showing as a brace on the...
Is there space between?
Okay, well, they're kind of corbels. It's like, it's a kind of a continuation of the column itself and turning. So, okay, could we
It's a cobalt
perhaps...
solid, that's
Yeah, that's fine.
Could we just maybe tell him to use thicker posts, 8x8s, and then we'll let the architect decide what's the best
Yeah.
option?
Okay.
Braces or no braces?
No braces, but I think he's not introducing braces. He just clarified. It's more of a...
Yes.
Okay.
Reduce the window, remove the windows or eliminate the windows on the turret entry,
Yeah.
and raise the height of the arch of the
Correct.
turret.
Correct.
Lower the living room window, and eliminate dividing lights. Is that?
Yes.
Oh, and then create a header there too, a wood header,
And add detail to the header.
yeah, to match the
Well,
rest.
header, yeah, not
Wood
detail,
header.
but, yeah,
Wood header.
to match, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Wood header, to
Wood
match
header.
the other headers.
Okay, use corbels on the side facing gable roof, which is the south elevation.
Yeah, just those three corbels that you had before.
And use 2x6 for new walls on the front elevation.
I think, Mr. Dung, that's the north elevation with those corbels you were referring to.
He's starting with this.
Right, I think that's
That's the
left.
south.
Left, if you're looking at it, it's the
north elevation.
north.
Okay,
yes.
north elevation, okay. Thank you. Use decorative tiles for the front entry landing and steps, and smooth plaster shall be applied by hand trowel.
Steel.
Steel.
As far as that comment that you had there for 2x6, we're saying that use 2x6 studs for all exterior, new exterior walls to recess the windows.
Okay.
And also, the archway for the turret, we were talking about to have either tile around the opening or some sort of precast trim that you want to mention there too.
Oh, not the steps or landing.
Well, the steps and landing is fine, yeah.
Okay.
You want to match them anyway. You're going to have some Spanish tiles and everything there. More of an Andalusian.
Excuse me, was there a recommendation also to make a lantern at that entry?
Yes,
or
above
was
the
that-
archway.
Okay, so we're not,
Inside the rotunda.
so that the archway doesn't get taller, the whole turret gets taller, create sort of a lantern on top and eliminate the windows above on the facade. That's what I understood.
Okay.
Is there conflicting?
Not necessarily the entire turret will be taller. It's the entry, where we are eliminating these windows. So when we are eliminating the windows, this becomes a heavier than it's supposed to be. So the archway can go up, and then on between the arch and where the roof starts, put a lantern there. Right in the middle of it.
Inside?
No, not inside, on top of it.
So the windows come more of a strip, so that, like a...
There's no windows. We're going to take these windows out
No,
from the
so,
turret.
can you clarify the lantern?
The lantern, okay, why? Well, the lantern would be between, it would be on top of the archway, between the archway and the roof rafters.
Like a light fixture?
Light fixture.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I was misinterpreting that
Oh, no,
term.
just a
Okay.
light fixture in between them.
Okay.
They're going to be putting some light fixtures anyway, so I'm just saying that we'll put right in the middle of it.
So this is like it's not a sconce, but it's more like either some kind of a bracket with a gooseneck or...
No,
Correct.
now I understand.
Okay.
Does that have to be a condition? It could be a recommendation? I mean, that's pretty specific on what type of land we're putting on.
Well, the only point is that if we don't put anything there, then it becomes too simple. That's what I was saying. So, I mean, whatever you feel. I mean, if you have to make that as a
recommendation, we can
I
put it as a recommendation.
I think as a recommendation, because overall, we haven't specified any other light fixtures. You know, for sure, there's going to be some light fixtures on the left and right elevation.
Which I wish we had.
And you know, my feeling is that he's done such a good job, and I think, you know, when it comes down to picking light fixtures, he's probably going to use the same amount of effort. So I'm okay as it not that specific, personally.
Okay, that's fine. So, but you want to include that specifically the treatment around the archway,
For the tile, I mean?
for the tile and the precast?
I think that would be great.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, all right. I would highly recommend, so if you survey the similar houses, we'll see.
In
Anyway,
the picture.
anyway, so that's it?
Yes, that's all.
Are you guys satisfied? This is it?
That'd be great.
Okay. So let's go roll call.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the project with the attached conditions.
I'll second.
Yeah, this will be roll call. Mr. Eliano,
Yes.
Mr. Yu,
Yes.
Mr. Simonian,
Yes.
and Chairman Surabian.
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two sets of minutes to approve tonight, November 29th, 2007, and January 10th of this
Right.
year.
November, you said?
Yeah, I've read it, it's fine. I mean, if anyone...
That was...
No, that's fine.
We didn't meet in Christmas.
I can make a motion.
I have one, there was a typo on the January 10th one, and I wouldn't bring it up unless it's somewhat of an important typo, I think.
Your name?
Just kidding. It's 2631 Hermosa Avenue, and the conditions, it's condition number 4. There was a lot of discussions about that, the historic factors of an existing wall and how they had to maintain it. But the condition says maintain the existing stove wall at the front of the property as feasible and so forth. So, yeah, so anyways, it's a historic aspect. There was some discussions on it.
Yeah, actually, I think that's already been changed.
Good,
Yeah.
good. You guys are on top of
We
it.
realized it wasn't a stove wall.
Oh, okay. Good, very good.
It'd be very interesting.
All right, other than that, you guys are satisfied? You want to make a motion or something to approve it? or- I can't make, that's why I'm...
If this is November, I was at the November meeting, so I'll move to approve them, but I cannot do the 10th because I was not here.
And I was here for both, so I move to approve the minutes of November 29th and January 10th.
Okay.
Okay, who's second?
There a second?
I'll second.
Motion to approve the minutes of November 29th, 2007, and January 10th, 2008. Roll call. Mr. Aliano?
I'll abstain because I was not in one of them. So.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
And Mr. Zarabian?
Yes.
Thank you. We've got two items for staff business. Actually, one's in a staff announcement. You may recall, late last year, you all looked at the Toyota on Foothill new
Yes.
building. And at the time, you continued it to January 31st of this year. Because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and we switched board meetings, all of a sudden, January 31st is a Board 2, and it needs to be heard again by you. So that will be heard on February 7th, 2008, and it's Bob Smith Toyota, 3322 Foothill Boulevard. What will happen is Board 2 next week will continue it to
Okay.
the 7th.
Okay, that's the earliest that we can do that, right?
Yeah, actually...
Just to be fair with...
Actually, Armine realized this like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, great.
So,
Good job.
yeah,
Otherwise,
I mean, it's a week later.
Okay, that's
so,
good. That's fine.
yeah.
That's fine.
That was the first announcement. The second one is you had in your packet revised rules and procedures, which now I can't find. Oh, here they are. Resolution adopting rules and procedures of your board. You need to adopt the revised rules, and basically the rule that has changed is the meetings are no longer at 1 in the afternoon, they start at 5 in the afternoon. So,
Okay.
Sign something?
So we need to adopt it?
yes.
Do we need to vote on it?
Yes, you do.
Okay. All right.
Any
so then-
questions on that? That was the only change.
And then, does everybody, we have this, well, this is probably something else,
That we need to sign.
the special time.
Brown Act, because of the special.
But do we have to do this every time now, or just one?
No, just I guess.
Okay, good.
Once you change the rules, then these 5 o'clock meetings will no longer be special meetings, they'll be the regular ones.
There you go. Good logic. I like it, okay.
So, is there a motion for a resolution for these new rules?
I move to adopt the new rules.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And there is a typo in this particular, I mean, it's not a typo, but maybe it is. It says board member two. Is that okay, or?
There should, I noticed that, there should be a board member 1 in there as well. My
It's on
copy had both.
it's on page number 5,
Yeah, my copy had both.
because the other board is going to sign it too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I take it back.
Okay.
That's not correct.
Okay. All right, a motion is made and seconded. This will be a roll call. Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Zarabi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have an extra copy of that? I filed mine,
Sure.
so I don't have one.
Sure. I'll get you my copy. Those were all of the staff announcements and business.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Great. Thank you.